What time is it? Oh yeah, it's time for washing my hair. But it's also time for a rant. Because, dude, I have had it with this attitude of, oh, I can't afford this because it is expensive right now. And instead I want to buy like 3 phones in 3 years rather than using one good phone for more than 3 years. Yeah, this is about Fairphone and this is about other fair products and in general expensive, sometimes organic products, because I mean there I get the discrepancy, you know, because you can only afford so much organic groceries and sometimes it doesn't even make sense. But fair, child labor free products, if you can afford them but you don't, what does that say about you? Literally, if you can afford a nice phone like this, you can afford this is perfectly fine as a phone, and then you say, well, I don't want to afford this. That is, no, I cannot logically follow this argument. Intellectually, yes, I hear your words. I hear what you're saying. It's not a hard sentence for me to process. The idiocy behind it is what I have an issue with. And then the second kind is like, oh, but I don't have the money right now, so I'd rather buy like 3 cheap products in the same amount of time rather than, you know, saving up and getting the good shit. Why would you not do that? But anyway, let's address the people who are like, oh, but the camera is not that good, oh, the microphone is not that good, blah, blah, blah. What are you doing with your phone? What are you doing with your phone? Are you shooting serious video? If you can afford a phone that costs like $500, you can afford a camera and a refurbished phone, which is still, nobody tells you that you have to buy a Fairphone. Nobody tells you that you have to buy any fair product. You can buy a refurbished phone. It's still better than this new child labor shit that is not fair made, not well made, just because it has a good camera. Fuck your good camera. You can have a good camera for, I don't know, $200 and a good refurbished phone that is like way better probably than this for $500 in total. If you have the $500 and then you spend it on some Apple crap or some other proprietary pile of shit, how does that make you a sophisticated user? Fuck that! I have so had it with this line of argumentation that it has a good camera and therefore it's superior. Oh, it is fast. The scrolling experience is more fluid. So what? What are you doing on your freaking phone? Like, are you watching porn in 4K? What do you need this for even? If you are producing high quality content of some sort, then you need a high quality camera. This is a phone. It's for calling people, it's for texting, it's for maybe syncing some basic shit. You don't do your taxes on this kind of stuff. You have a computer for that, and if you don't have the skills to actually do stuff on the computer, then you should get them, because obviously that is a problem because it makes you a tech illiterate. How is that a skill? That's not a feature, that's a bug. One thing that I find especially disgusting coming from people who have Netflix subscriptions, a lot of time on their hand that they could use to work and steady jobs, is that they cannot afford stuff. Yet you can afford all this other shit. You can afford to smoke cigarettes, you can afford to have 5 different subscriptions you don't use, you probably have a gym membership that you are not using, but you can't afford a phone. And then as an argument, as a token piece of shit fucking argument, you use poor people. But poor people can't afford it, therefore it's a shitty product. Therefore it's not good enough. Therefore it needs to meet higher standards than any other product we just buy. That is not fair. Like literally, that's not fair. Fair products are not as top notch as your average Apple shit. Of course they are not. They're also not as good usually as your average, I don't know, Samsung. I haven't used Samsung in a while because, I mean, in the past, they screwed over their customers so much that it's just not a brand I trust anymore. When has Fairphone ever screwed me over? I mean, yeah, there's like a waiting list sometimes for the parts if you need to replace one, but that's like 2 months of waiting. How long you wait for car parts if there's a shortage? Nobody complains about that. Oh, they don't have my car parts, so I have to wait a few weeks. Like, what else should I do? Oh, it's my phone. It's supposed to be there tomorrow by Amazon. Screw that. That's nonsense. If you want repairable, fair-made products, you gotta deal with the consequences until we have a society that actually values good, fair-made products, which are not made on the backs of children. I can't believe that at this day we are still having this discussion. It's the same as a discussion about animal cruelty. You don't need to be a vegan to see that treating animals horribly is something that's just disgusting. You don't need a higher university degree to feel crappy about eating that kind of stuff. And you also don't need to make the comparison between somebody who is barely scraping by and has to eat that kind of stuff. Although, I mean, they can still revert to vegetarian options if they don't agree with animal cruelty, right? But you don't have to stoop that low and take these people who are not the same as you, use them as an argument to make a point that does not apply to you and the majority of people who are even having this argument, because they can all afford this, but they're using poor people as an argument to make a point that they can't really make, which pisses me off. I also want to see the one creator that is out there making serious content on a phone. Show me that one creator. I mean, sure, there are 2 or 3 blah 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 YouTubers who just record everything on their phone, have a shitty microphone, whatever, and then at some point they switch to the camera and everyone's like, oh, you didn't have a real good camera? I mean, they're Apple users because, let's be honest, the Apple cameras are just good. On the other hand, though, show me my videos that are taken on my Fairphone. Show me those videos. Link them below. Let me know which videos are filmed on a Fairphone and which one are filmed on a 2,000 euro setup. Like this. Show me the videos. Because it's not that much worse. Still, like, just from the handling of the files, from the handling of the system, and the quality that I want to see as a creator, it makes a difference for me. So if I want to be serious about YouTube, I want to make good content and also take great photos, I will use a real camera and not a phone. And I will not stoop as low as to using the argument that a phone should have a good camera simply because others do. Simply because I'm too lazy to take out my camera because, oh, I'm such, I don't know, a weak woman that has no strength in their arm and can't hold a camera. Like, literally, what is like the physical reason to not use a real camera if you want to take great photos? I'm not going to a racing event with my 20-year-old Honda. Why would I only shoot video on a phone? It's not made for that. You need to understand that these gimmicks, like several apps and several platform-dependent systems like editing apps, like CapCut and other shit, they try to keep you small. Phone-based solutions are not real solutions because it limits you in the way you use your hands. It limits you in the way you use your eyes because, like, this screen, compared to what? That? Do I need to say more? It's nonsense. Of course you can work better on a larger screen. I get it when people, like the few people who are not actually joining this conversation, by the way, if they really can't afford a laptop and they're like, okay, I don't have the means, but I can download this app for $3 and I want to start just filming videos on my phone. Personally, it would not be the way I do it. I would get a job. I would work on myself. I would try to maximize my income and then I would buy all the nice gear and then I would start off my channel. I would wait until that because that is just my general philosophy. But I still do get the sentiment. I have friends like that who say, well, I have an old iPhone and it's not that bad, so I'm just going to use this until I can afford a better one because I want to start making content right now because, I don't know, for instance, it is about a cost or something and it's important to them and they want to voice their opinion. Who am I to say, oh, you shouldn't do that? I'm not saying you shouldn't do that. I'm saying you shouldn't complain about actual well-made phones like the Fairphone or other fair options. What would that be though? Like what is a good example that people are always pointing out? Framework computers, I've heard good things about those. It's just something you cannot compare. You cannot compare a person being unable to afford something good for a long time with a person who actually can afford something in a short amount of time. But they just won't. They just won't because they want to have a relatively cheaper product on the back of children or on the back of workers, somewhere where they don't see the misery. It's not the same. It's not the same if you're struggling, you need a phone to work somehow, you just get some phone that works. But those are not the people complaining about the cameras. I don't buy it. It's always the ones that could afford nice hardware, that could afford fair-made hardware, which is nice enough, but it's not like, ooh, top-tier shit, okay? So you want to afford like a top-tier phone, but you don't like the solution of having a camera and a good phone that is at least fair-made. I mean, the only argument that you could make at this point would be like, well, the camera is not fair-made. Summa summarum, it's like, yeah, doesn't matter really. But then you could use a refurbished camera, and you could use an older camera. That'll still be better than buying a new non-fair made phone. I just wish that more people could see it that way. Understanding that buying something cheap 3 times is not better than saving up and buying the good thing. And also that there is just no argument saying that you can't afford something when you actually can. If you can afford something nice and you just want to have that top tier product, okay, good for you. But don't go around shaming fair made products. The point in fair made products is primarily that they are just that, fair made. And then come the tech criteria. It does everything it's supposed to do as a phone. It's not a piece of top tier gear. It's just a phone. When did we become so deprecated that we had all these weird claims of excellence towards everyday items? Do you go about this like when you're looking at your washing machine? Oh, if it's not like a top tier washing machine and it's also doing my kids' homework and wiping my ass, then it's not good enough? Oh, but a phone, if it doesn't have like the best camera, what are you doing with your camera? What are you doing? Because again, if you are wanting to be a serious creator, at some point you will get a camera. If phones were so good that they're as good as cameras, nobody would buy a Sony or a Canon and Nikon anymore. Those companies would go broke. I mean, Nikon is on the way there, I guess, because like, I don't know, they are expensive. Too expensive in my opinion. But I was a Nikon user for a long time. But if it was so great to use something where you just have one lens or two, and it's basically the same still, and one of them is weak. That's not just true for the Fairphone, that's true for any phone. Like, the lenses are not that great. The bokeh is not that great. If they were so great, why are all the big creators not using them to film their shit? Why are they using those unnecessary, stupid, big cameras with interchangeable lenses? Because they're so dumb? Oh, they're just splurging? Sure. Yeah, sure. That will be the reason. Not because it's actually fucking practical. So yeah, if you want to be serious as a creator, at some point you will want to use a camera. And even if it's just like an old used RX 100, that's what I started out with. All of those, just from the look and feel and the handling, are still so much superior to any phone. The difference between a user like me and people who expect like top tier camera solutions on their phone, which by the way, still a lot of this is like, I can see if it's shot on a phone. Maybe the untrained eye can't, but I can see it. Like, even if it's like the best, most expensive Apple phone, I can still see it. And so, you know, it's just like a little bit too sharp and a little bit too flat because limitations, physical limitations to those small lenses just propel you to a technical limit that you cannot outsmart by software. It's just a physical limitation. You're just limited by the space that you have and by the sensor that you have in this kind of thing. And those are all problems you do not have with a real camera. So to me, this is not even a debate. That's just bullshit Apple bro talk. So to sum it up, no hate to people who really can't afford something else, who really can't afford fair-made stuff, good food, whatever, you know, harms the environment and the people less. I understand. I have been a poor student at some point and I lived off, I don't know, $7 a week. And I only ate buns with butter and pretzels for, I don't know, a year. And then I upgraded to, I don't know, buns with cheese and butter. Yeah. I remember that I would take each and any free product that I could get. Like, I would subscribe to all this shit and just have it sent to my home, or I would go to the drugstore and ask them for samples. And I had so many samples at some point that I didn't have to buy shampoo and things like that anymore. So I understand. I am empathetic. Who I am not empathetic with are the people who can afford the good stuff, but they don't because, oh, it doesn't meet my specs. But then what they're doing with the specs? Nothing. Nothing. They're filming their kid's birthday from a weird angle and the sound is still shit because the microphone of their phone isn't that good either, because physical limitations at any phone. Physical limitations. Any phone camera has these physical limitations due to the size of the sensor, due to the size of the lens, due to the amount of light that can come in, and due to the dimensions and the rest of the hardware capabilities of that phone. Maybe in the future, but not now. Now, this is a non-argument. Get a real camera if you want to take great footage, and stop using poor people as a conversation killer argument to shut down the other side. It's not fair towards these products. It's not a good argument. Frankly, it's just off topic. What is your user profile? Do you actually need a phone that is as good as a camera? Then why? Why do you need that? And if you can afford such a good phone, so you're probably spending way more than $500, why does it have to be new? If you can afford such great hardware, why can it not be a camera and a phone, maybe refurbished, still just as good? Why is it so important to have all in one thing? Because in general, that's just a rule of life. Things that claim to be good at everything are barely ever good at each single thing. They're barely ever at the top performance level in each of these things. There are just so many examples in the tech industry alone of how whole companies failed because they were trying stuff they were not good at. They were starting to be greedy, wanting to explore new sectors, I guess, and they failed. I'm not saying that you should never try new things, obviously, but it's really important to know the limitations of a product and also to know the limitations of your own user profile. It's very arrogant to say that a phone can be as good as a camera. Any phone. For you as a noob who is not a serious creator, as stupid as that sounds, serious creator, it's still YouTube, it's still. But people who seriously claim that their phone is just as good as a high-level camera, even a semi-pro camera, that's just completely delusional and arrogant. Can we please step away from that narrative that one thing that fits our pocket has to be a supercomputer and do it all? It's okay to use a laptop. It's more than okay. It should be the standard for your editing. And it should be normalized to use a camera if you want to shoot serious video. That's it. Oh yeah, but Hitler shaved, therefore shaving is evil. Fuck this bullcrap. Dude, this video is so getting demonetized.